Ladies and gentlemen, our wonderful graduates, and all of your friends and family who have come out to support you today. I have been reflecting on some of the challenges that you may face after your graduation. And I'd like to touch on two of them today and offer a couple of suggestions that you might want to keep in mind. The first challenge is how to thrive in the face of emerging technologies, and the second is how to collaboratively problem solve in a world of increasing social divisiveness. A few of the emerging technologies that are around today have the potential to transform our world. And one of the keys to your success from now right through to your retirement will be to try to anticipate which of those emerging technologies will prove transformative and how you can best adapt to them. One of those technologies is blockchain. Another one is artificial intelligence. Last month, I was reading that at the Canadian National Science Fair in Ottawa, there was a high school student who invented a small-scale car that taught itself to drive. So that's an example of artificial intelligence, and I find it unbelievable that it was invented by a high school student. I think he was about 16. Human augmentation is another emerging technology. We live in an environment that's increasingly wired, sensor-filled, and digitally connected, and so are we. We've gone far beyond pacemakers and smartphones. Now we have smart contact lenses. They're on the near horizon. Bionic eyes, microchips that will be implanted in people. 3D printing, it's already revolutionizing inventory and supply chain systems and other aspects of business, and maybe it will revolutionize healthcare. We have smart drugs, which, especially when they're coupled with artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, genomic sequencing, hold the promise of providing us with personalized medicine that is truly effective. Brain-computer interfaces, there's the ultimate human-machine interrelationship. Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, famously proclaimed in 2015 that in the future, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, "You're going to be able to capture a thought or a feeling in its ideal and perfect form in your head, and then share it with the world in a format the world can understand." So in other words, what he foresees is perfect communication of feelings and ideas without language, cultural, technical, or other barriers. Another emerging technology is machine-machine interaction, or the Internet of Things. Emerging technologies are nothing new. We've been dealing with those for at least the last 100 years, but what is new is the fast pace of change, and I think this will have a profound effect on the economy of the future. In the World Economic Forum in Davos last year, one of the speakers came up with the statistic that 65% of kids in elementary school today will eventually have jobs that don't exist today. And this has implications for you graduates because it means that the job that you will retire from may not yet exist. It follows that people need to be educated for an economy that does not exist today. And we should be asking ourselves how to do that and what are the best strategies for success. Consider a few additional ways that emerging technologies are changing the world. We are increasingly interconnected and interdependent. This has raised engagement with stakeholders and made us think about how information is accessed, consumed, protected, and misused. The result of those concerns in Europe has been the EU's new General Data Protection Regulation, and you're all aware of that because all of your apps and your devices have been throwing up pop-up boxes as international organizations try to bring themselves into compliance. All of these concerns are captured in what I think may be the truism of the decade, which is that machines can be programmed to do the next thing right, but only humans can figure out what the next right thing is. Other challenges from emerging technologies. Technology has made the world transparent. Everyone knows everything now, or if they don't know it, they can find out. Everyone can find out whether Joe Fresh clothing sold in Canada was made in an unsafe sweatshop in Bangladesh. Everyone can find out the spill safety record of the Kinder Morgan Pipeline Company. These are just two examples, but they abound in the media. New ways of communicating are needed, and a higher level of accountability is going to be demanded of you, along with an elevated approach to leadership and a deeper focus on trust and human connections. It's somewhat ironic, I think, that as these new technologies emerge, they highlight more and more the importance of human connection, human skills, human aptitudes. Apart from the challenges of emerging technologies, we have the issue of collaborative problem solving in the midst of increasing social divisiveness. The problems today are tough and they're complicated. They will only be solved through collaboration. We're connected to each other faster and more easily than ever, but there are still tensions that can divide us. There are many examples of this in the media, two of which are Brexit and the divided states of America under President Trump. After the last election south of the border, some scientists at the MIT Media Lab decided to map connections on social media. And they looked at the results and described the online world as one balkanized by ideology and issue interest, with little potential for information flow between the online cocoons. How are you going to thrive in your career in the face of this divisiveness? I humbly offer some suggestions for your consideration. They are not standalone solutions. The lines between them are blurry. The first is lifelong learning. You need to recognize that automation will end jobs, but it will not end work. The questions of which jobs can be automated, how, to what extent, and how will that change the way you work? Those questions need to be answered by innovative thinking and continuous learning so that you can keep abreast of technological changes and even spot emerging technologies on the far horizon. Soft skills. Every year we hear that employers are looking for problem solvers, people with creative skills, people with high emotional intelligence. And we've tried to instill some of those in you at Royal Roads. You need to be a good communicator, but not only in your human-human interactions. You need to become a good communicator in the human and machine interactions. These soft skills are the hardest skills to find, but the most necessary ones if you are going to build organizations that will endure. You also need reimagined leadership and more and better collaboration. I suggest you need leadership that gives and receives feedback, that collaborates widely to tackle change, not just collaborating among your peers, but collaborating across other disciplines and with people that you perhaps don't feel all that comfortable with, people who aren't like you. You need to leverage decentralized decision-making, foster a sense of inclusiveness, and develop meaningful relationships with other people. You need to recognize that the solitary genius is a myth. If it was ever true, it isn't true now. It hasn't been true for a long time. In an era of ever-increasing technological change, working together is the best way to move forward, and perhaps the only way forward. The exchange of ideas can be a uniting force, and we see examples of that every day with people collectively using social media platforms to support people in need, shine a light on injustice, and try to improve the world. When I was a new graduate, the motto that people told me was that chance favors the prepared mind. But I think today, the better motto might be that chance favors the connected mind. In an era characterized by emerging technology and social divisiveness and uncertainty, you need to create environments where people can collaborate and big ideas can coalesce. The last suggestion I have for you is to improve your trust building and constantly work on it. As we become more interconnected and interdependent, building trust is more important than ever. And lack of trust creates risk. Don't believe me that lack of trust creates risk? Think about President Trump's recent announcement that the US is pulling out of the Iran nuclear accord. A deal that the Americans worked very hard to get and have had in place for just 3 years. A deal where the negotiations were supported by multiple Western countries imposing embargoes that had tragic consequences on Iran. President Trump's announcement came just before he flew to Singapore to seek a nuclear non-proliferation agreement of some kind with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Ask yourself whether North Korea is more or less likely to trust in an agreement that they may make with the Americans as a result of their negotiations, and whether the American pullout of the Iran nuclear accord decreases or increases the nuclear risk to the world. Trust and success go hand in hand today, but getting and keeping trust is harder in the digital era. Whatever organization you work for, it must establish a strong purpose that must be reflected in its values, culture, and behavior. I hope you will reflect on these challenges and suggested solutions when you go back to your workplaces. Congratulations on attaining your degrees, and I wish you happiness, prosperity, and every success in all of your endeavors.